Okay, hearing no objections, that amendment is approved. Are there any objections to the approval of the agenda as amended? Okay, no objections, so it is amended. We have no minutes, so we'll go ahead and go into the first item, which is 5B, the resolution 2024-02. Nancy, I believe this is your item if you would like to speak on it.
Yes, I'll be as succinct as possible. Both the two community councils in the air, well, first to back up, as you may or may not know, Minnesota Drive was upgraded in the interest of safety between Benson and Northern Lights. Light poles were placed in the median. A cement platform was poured down the middle of the road, and then a fence or a barrier was placed on top of that. In the interest of not having pedestrians cross through between the mid-block, basically. Neither Spenard Community Council nor Turnagain Community Council was involved or consulted or informed before this improvement took place. Both community councils feel that it does not solve the pedestrian safety issues nor pedestrian convenience issues. At either end of the wall, there are intersections which have only 3 crosswalks instead of a 4th leg. So in some instances, pedestrians take 8 minutes to cross 3 major streets using the pedestrian lights. So in short, the community councils were not satisfied, neither in being excluded nor in the outcome. Both wrote letters to DOT. Both got identical, pretty much letter back saying maybe it can be addressed again in the upcoming Minnesota Drive Walk sidewalk repairs. They're not really confident in that because this is not sidewalks, and maybe Aaron could tell us whether that's a likelihood or not, whether an AMATS project can be expanded to something as big as this. And then they said, well, we've also got AMATS has Minnesota Drive and I and L Street corridor plans in the future, but there's no timeline. And that's a huge project stretching 3 or 4 miles from International down to 3rd Avenue. So the likelihood of any short-term improvements to this intersection through that project seem next to nothing. So in short, the community councils tried to get some near-term solutions and did not. And similar to our, so I thought that it would be worth our efforts as a community advisory board to try to amplify or get a little momentum for those 2 community councils. And I think we all probably use this intersection. We know there's a heavy amount of pedestrian traffic here. Spenard's one of the most walkable communities in general. It has a lot of apartment homes and then major commercial destinations on both sides of Minnesota Drive. There's the Cars Safeway complex on one side, and then Walgreens and Alaska Club and various other businesses on other corners. So I laid this out, establishing our role here. I'm new, so it was a little bit to the committee. So it was a little bit of a thought exercise. What is our role here? This is a pedestrian project, so maybe Bike Ped could have taken it up, but they didn't. So I thought because we are involved in implementation of in plans and that sort of thing, and this is a safety plan issue, I think we do have a voice here. And just one more thing, I don't find the standard whereas format very useful because you can have a ton of whereases, kind of lose track of them before you get to the resolutions. So I broke it down in sections, but for purposes of conformity to convention, I'm happy to put all the resolved statements at the end of our resolution if that is necessary.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. Are there any comments from the committee members?
This is Bob French. I guess I'm interested in hearing a little bit from DOT as far as why they believe that having this barrier was the best solution for helping to prevent pedestrian and vehicle problems. And then I guess also to hear some of their DOT's reasons for saying why it's not possible to just go ahead and remove that.
Okay, is there anyone from DOT who's on who can speak on this? Yeah, I didn't think so. So there's no one from DOT who can speak on this item, so I guess just keep that in mind when you're
Okay,
discussing.
I was
do.
seeing several people from DOT on the attendance list, so I thought there could have been somebody.
No, we didn't reach out to him prior to the meeting. Yeah, I don't know if anyone here is able to speak on it, so. Okay, any other committee comments? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to public comments. Any public comments? And just a reminder, you have 3 minutes to speak on this item.
Here,
Yes,
I think Luke Bowen's gonna call in.
okay, like join the meeting to talk?
To answer some questions.
Okay, we can go ahead and do that after public comments. That'll be
Sure.
fine. So, okay, any public comments on there?
Chair,
Kathy, you might have some echo, multiple speakers or phones on, so you might want to mute one of them before unmuting and trying again. Excuse me. Go ahead, Kathy, whenever you're ready. Okay, any other members of the public? Galen, does Luke need me to send him the invite for the meeting?
I am not sure. Let me ask him real quick.
I'll forward it to him. Okay, there are no public comments unless Kathy is able to.
Aaron,
unmute.
this is Nancy. I see Kathy as, her icon shows up twice on my screen. I don't know if that's part of the issue.
It might be part of the
She might
issue,
have signed on the phone and her computer,
yeah.
which I used to do.
Okay.
So, I see Luke is on. Luke, are you, here to speak on this item, the Minnesota Wall?
I was just informed that this meeting was happening, and so joined in. So I'm coming in with without hearing, I guess, what's been discussed to date, but I guess happy to discuss, help out however I can.
Okay, so before the Community Advisory Committee, and I apologize not reaching out to you sooner, this once again slipped through the cracks. There is a resolution before the Community Advisory Committee regarding the Minnesota Drive pedestrian wall and some concerns regarding that particular item. And I think the committee members had some questions for you. And I don't know if you could answer them. Bob, would you be able to rephrase what you were asking or restate what you were asking and see if Luke can help?
Sure. My basic questions were, how was it decided that the I guess the barrier on top of the concrete, Jersey barriers. How was it decided that that was going to, improve pedestrian safety? And, I wanted to hear some of the reasons for why DOT, I guess, i- without having the DOT response to the Spenard and Turnigan community councils, I'd like to hear some of those responses as well as trying to find out what DOT's objections would be to just removing the fence on top of the median wall.
So I guess kind of speaking to the intent there, yeah, that the improvements there in the center median are there as intended to be improvements to safety there. We've got poor lighting in the area, and with the overhead utilities on each side of the road, the decision was made to install the increased lighting in the center median. With those installations, there's concerns that those light poles could be hit. And so that's the reason for the raised median in the center. And then, you know, as we're looking at kind of what that ultimately looked like, we didn't want that to be something where people were trying to climb over as they may be crossing mid-block across Minnesota. And so I'm happy that we've gotten some additional lighting in that area because I think that is a good improvement in the area. We know the aesthetics of the fence haven't been well received with those HSAP projects. Typically, we're doing data-driven kind of some sort of improvements that are going to improve safety. So usually there's not a big public involvement component to our HSIP work. We are looking at another challenging area in town here over by Merrill Field on 5th and 6th there, where we may be looking at doing something similar on lighting improvements there. And then with that and lessons learned based on what we've seen here in this fence, we're going to be doing more public outreach there to get public opinion on how we best improve lighting in that area.
This is SJ. I've got I guess a question about it as well. I guess the safety issue being kind of pedestrians and cars interfacing, pedestrians trying to cross Minnesota there. I guess I've observed two things just as a user of the facility. One is that people are still crossing anyway, and now when they're crossing, they can't see oncoming traffic, and so they're crossing blind. And then also as a driver, when I'm coming down Minnesota, I have no idea if there's somebody about to cross in front of me because I can't see anything either. And I'm wondering if that's intentional in the project, or is that kind of a side result of it?
I guess I travel this area on a fairly regular basis too, making a left onto Minnesota there off of Northern Lights. And this winter, in pitch black conditions during rush hour, I did see somebody that looked like they were trying to jaywalk, but ended up realizing that they couldn't make it around that. And they did pop out closer to the intersection and crossed in front of me. In my opinion, that was a better situation because I was actually looking for him as I was in the intersection, because usually that's where I'm most aware of where pedestrians should be crossing. So I guess I'm happy that there wasn't somebody vaulting over the center wall there in that situation.
This is Nancy. I'll chime in since Kathy apparently hasn't been able to comment. She did comment to me a similar situation in which they observe pedestrians trying to cross and then walking parallel to the barrier. So in a sense, pinned in a very small space between passing cars and the concrete wall. And it's apparently terrifying, as we can imagine. So that's you know, that same as you have both experienced. What about the not the solution of putting in the missing legs on those two intersections? Again, this is a really heavy pedestrian area. And those bypass intersections that take reportedly 8 minutes are part of the frustration that causes people to try to cross mid-block.
And that's something that we're looking at with the future project there. There's obviously more to adding that additional pedestrian leg to that intersection than just putting some paint down. There's signal timing aspects to it. There's so we're looking at doing that with, I think it's the Minnesota Pathway Project. That's an AMATS project, and we've spoken with Aaron about adding that scope into that effort there.
Well, part of the resolution here is to have more specificity as to when and how this could be addressed. And I guess my experience as a community council person in the past is that it's hard to change scope of project radically. This isn't Minnesota sidewalks. I don't know what the original scope is. So maybe the community would be more reassured if there were a definite ability to do that and a timeline, because the DOT letter to the community councils in response mentioned that, but there's no indication of its likelihood or timing. Do you have any information on either?
So that is an active project that we have in process right now. AMATS Minnesota Drive sidewalk repairs. So we're currently working through the environmental process on that one and looking at having environmental document wrapped up here in December. Based on the schedule that I have here this is from January. And then moving forward with advanced design.
Yeah, right now that project is programmed into the TIP for construction funding in 2026.
Okay, given that it's already an environmental phase, is it likely that a project to approve crossings could be inserted and catch up to the rest of the project?
Well, I think that's what we said we were doing, is we are including this in this active project.
Aaron, would I be able to say something now?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Hold on, I know we kind of got out at just a second. Got kind of out of order. Are there any members of the public who are wanting to speak? Sorry, just a second. Kathy, I see your icon unmuted, but you're not speaking. Or there's no sound coming out. Okay, so we'll move on from public comments unless Kathy can get her thing fixed. So Galen, I think you had a quick comment. Just state your name for the record.
Galen Jones, DOT. I was just gonna speak to that environmental document. Typically with these types of projects, the environmental documents have language in there about roadside appurtenances, just lots of generic language with signing, striping, things like that. And because that work would be on signals or within the roadway area, I can't think of any additional environmental resources that it would impact, like floodways or endangered species, environmental justice populations, the list goes on. So that may make it much easier to, either it's already included with the generic language that we put in environmental documents for these types of projects, or it'd be very easy to add and not be a major scope change. I don't know if Luke wanted to chime in if he agrees with that or disagrees with that characterization, but I just figured I might be able to provide that insight to help the community understand the likelihood a little better.
I think I agree with what Galen's saying there. And I guess one of the other reasons why we thought it would be most expeditious to put this into another project as opposed to starting a standalone.
All right, Aaron, this is SJ. Just in the interest of time, if I may direct to my fellow commissioners, it sounds like that there's interest in kind of doing something about this, that members of DOT may agree with us on this. And so I don't see the harm in just moving forward with the resolution as it stands. And just to put on record that these are issues that need to be resolved in the next iteration. Does that make sense to you, Nancy?
Yes, that's helpful. The letter from DOT said the possibility of desired pedestrian crossings will be evaluated. So that is hopeful. We're hoping for a little more than possibility, hoping for action. So this, I think that would be a good idea. We can pass this and note that we understand DOT may be favorably disposed, and we're grateful for that.
Okay, real quick. So I'm commenting not as the person running the meeting, but as the coordinator. So just a quick comment. I think we should be removing the therefore be it resolved comments here. I don't think it's needed because it makes it almost seem like you're not sure of your role as the CAC and that you want to put this in here to verify what your role is. You know, you already have it under the whereas, so you don't really need it in the therefore be it resolved. I think it just clutters the resolution and kind of distracts from what your original message is supposed to be. Same with this other therefore, where it's municipality and DOT have clear responsibility to improve. That should be part of like the whereases versus the therefore be it resolved. So my recommendation would be to remove those and then just leave the main therefore be it resolved. Sorry, hold on. It's a little confusing because it goes into multiple therefore it be resolved. And I know you said that it helps break it up, but from us and like a technical perspective, as we're trying to talk to committee members about this, it gets really confusing. So I would recommend to you all to remove the first two therefore, put the third one with the rest of them at the very end. So then it's clear and concise what it is that you're asking for. And it's easy for people to quickly scan through and see that at the very end.
So the third,
This is SJ. I'll make a motion to make those amendments.
Second,
Hold on. We have to have a motion. Sorry, just a second. This was just me commenting as the coordinator, not as the person running the meeting. So that was just what I wanted to put out there.
Right. And so, Aaron, it's as a member of the commission, I'm making a motion to incorporate those amendments as suggested by staff.
So first
and
you
I'll
have to have,
second that.
so sorry, first you have to have a main motion on the floor, which is typically move to approve or something like that.
Oh, we didn't have a motion to approve this resolution yet? Oh,
There was not a motion. It was just discussion. It's at the point where you can make a motion.
great. Thank you. Then I'll move to approve this motion as presented, or 2024-02.
Okay, is there a second?
Mike
I'll
Rayburn,
second.
Diana, sorry, Diana first. Okay, now you're at the point where you can make amendments if you would like.
All right, this is SJ. I move that we amend the motion to match the suggestions that Aaron just made.
Is there a second?
Bob French, a second.
Okay, I'll restate it real quick, just so you guys know. So the recommendation or the amendment is, sorry, there's a little bit of lag, so just bear with me, is to remove this first, therefore, right here, that talks about what the CAC's role is. To remove this other therefore that talks about what DOT and the Muni's role is. And then to move this third therefore down to the bottom with the other therefore. So combine both of those into one. So that is the amendment. There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Are there any objections to the amendment as stated? Okay, no objections. Is there any objections to approval of the motion? Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I get it all right. As amended of the overall thing. So approving the resolution as amended. Okay, no objections. So I will adjust that and I will put it on to the next TAC agenda in April. Thank you all for bearing with me. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item. I gotta switch my screen real quick to bring it up. And that is the Community Advisory Committee's discussion on the Seward to Glenn PEL. So just as a quick reminder, this was at your last special meeting, but for the sake of time, it was postponed to this meeting. So the public comment period is happening until April 7th. However, the project team said they would accept comments from the CAC after that. So we really appreciate that. So the idea here is to get you guys to discuss this item, to move any comments that you would like, and to bring those to the Technical Advisory Committee and Policy Committee in April. So before you are the comments from SJ Klein. SJ, did you want to go ahead and start discussion on these?
Sure, and I don't know if commissioners want to kind of take them on one by one or as a lot. So, and I apologize, I'm not in the room. It's just not a good day for me to be there. But I guess I'll kind of take them on one by one. I mean, the Seward Glen connection planning and environmental linkage study is a huge project. It's AMATS had approved $5 million for it several years ago. The contract with the HDR, Galen, who presented at our last meeting, is the current project manager. He took over about a little over a year ago. And, you know, I mean, I'm very impressed with DOT and HDR's responsiveness to community concerns and issues. The comments that I've put forward are really, I've broken them into two sections. The general comments are kind of really about priorities and impacts. And then specific comments are kind of, they're still general to each of the alternatives that are presented. So I guess to the first comment that I've put in there, you know, there are a number of goals of the project identified in prior documents from this one. And two of them are really at odds. You know, if you read some of the documentation, they've got kind of a graph talking about the trade-off between mobility and livability. And so the balance between the two is really kind of how decisions are going to end up being made when assessing alternatives. And so I put this first note together as a way to kind of try and steer the balance towards livability as opposed to mobility. And that's kind of the intent of the comment.
Okay, Nancy, I see your hand up. Did you have a question on this particular comment or overall?
Just to both. Overall, I assume that we're going to try to make comments on each of the alternatives. That's what SJ has outlined for us. So that's my assumption. With regard to the balance of, or the criteria, the overall design approach, as stated on page 12, includes the importance of regional free flow traffic and the removal of controlled access between the two highways to improve connectivity for regional travelers And I'm just not, I haven't dived into the data, but I'm just not sold on that being you know, that's the number one listed. It's not ranked, but it's the first one listed, which tends to be revelatory. And under valuation of improved livability, again, same section of the report, they list 3 trail and pedestrian accommodations, one of which is the Moose Loop connection, which is kind of a tourism, you know, not amenity. It's for Anchorage residents as well, of course. But anyway, I just didn't feel that spoke very well to all the ways that the project could improve livability. And again, under travel conflicts and improve safety, no stoplights for freight and rerouting trucks to industrial streets were, primary goals. So diving into a little bit more detail, those were 3 design approaches that I thought were not necessarily reflective of they didn't balance the needs really well.
Okay, did you guys want to go through each comment on SJ's thing here and vote on it? Or did you want to do kind of the general comments overall? What is your preference? Yes.
I have a, something, I'm just in the, for the general committee. I was, made aware of a letter that, Aaron Jonganella wrote to the Seward Highway PEL team, which seems to address a lot, and it was presented at the tax meeting last week. And it seems to address a lot of the issues that SJ is talking about. I know it's kind of hard if you're not aware of this letter to throw this in the mix, but if there are people that are aware of it, I'd kind of like to know what their opinion of it was.
Were we provided with copies of that letter? I don't recall seeing it.
No, it was presented at the last TAC meeting, and I just learned of it recently, so I didn't try to forward it to our team.
Aaron, could you, is there some, what should we know about this letter with regard to making our committee comments?
It's about 2 pages, so I don't know if we have time to read through it really quickly on the screen and just see what people's opinions are. It's just a way to, if we agree to support AMAT staff as part of our resolution, and it may address a lot of our issues.
Sorry, just a second. I'm grabbing the letter so I can pull it up, and I can walk through it really quickly for you all. Let me stop sharing that one, and I will go to this one. Yeah. Okay, so there are 9 kind of bullet points that AMAT staff put in a letter to provide feedback to the project team. So this was reviewed by the technical advisory committee. They recommended approval with 1 addition to it to the policy committee. So it'll be going to the policy committee next week. So the first comment, or the first letter there, is that the alternatives don't appear to address the concerns raised by the community or solve many of the problems. And we kind of go into more detail under the other bullets. So the first one is just kind of an overall general that it doesn't really seem to solve the problems. And so the second one is the alternatives don't match up to the purpose and need. And what we mean by that is the purpose and need talks about regional and local connectivity as being important. And when you look at the alternatives, they are highway alternatives. So constructing a highway through the community or near the community, which typically don't address local connectivity. The projects that are shown are actually the MTP projects that'll help with local connectivity, but the PEL itself and the alternatives don't help with that. And part of the problem with the alternatives and the purpose and need, the data that's put out there in the system performance report doesn't really show that there's good justification for the highway, because there's a focus on the level of service and vehicle hours of delay. And when you look at the level of service information, it's focused solely on the Glen Highway as being the concern. And when you look at the vehicle hours of delay, it's almost non-existent except from the Glen Highway. When you actually look at the Glen Highway, it's like 1.8 or 1.2% change in vehicle hours of delay from now until 2050. When you look at the overall system, at the very bottom, it's like 2.2% vehicle hours of delay change, which is minor in the grand scheme of things. So there was concern by AMAT staff regarding that. There's also, so next point is, you know, best practices for transportation planning professionals these days is not building highways. It's instead focusing on high impact, low costs, like increasing transit, TSMO, TDM. Number 4, serious concern about funding. There is a significant lack of funding for a lot of projects throughout the Anchorage area, as demonstrated with the recent STIP, and most of those projects being pulled due to lack of funding. And so when you have this highway project being shown, AMAT staff was very concerned that there was no cost estimates, and I know they're not far enough along in the process typically, but part of a PEL is to allow flexibility to be able to provide this information for everybody to make informed a decision about this, and cost is one of those concerns, especially in light of everything that's going on. So there's concern there's not going to be enough money to pay for it, to construct it. You know, the MGP is currently fiscally constrained through 2050, and so adding highway alternatives to that would mean other projects have to come out, and that's a big concern. 5th bullet point, it's long-term pavement and winter maintenance. Everybody is struggling with winter maintenance, and everybody is struggling with pavement preservation. AMATS is stepping in to help with the pavement preservation, but adding another highway, adding all the on and off ramps just makes it that much harder to keep up with the pavement conditions. The next alternatives that are presented don't match up with the goal at 2050 MTP goals to maintain existing infrastructure, improve safety, security, improve access, mobility, promote healthy environment, and advance equity. They also don't match with the federal aid performance measures of infrastructure condition and environmental sustainability. 7, public transit does not appear to be included in the analysis. There's no information provided in the alternatives of how public transportation was incorporated in as a possible solution or as a way to help offset some of the concerns in the area. So we were asking how were they involved and how was transit accounted for as part of the alternatives. Number 8, as an MPO, AMATS is required to consider housing and planning. And so there's serious concern by staff on the impacts to housing. And so, you know, how is that going to be addressed or taken care of as part of this project? And then last, there's no innovative solutions considered from what we can see. And we're talking about TSMO and TDM. And I'll be honest, it shouldn't be up to AMAT staff to provide those innovative solutions. That's what the consultant's for. And AMATS just came out with TSMO program and just did TDM for UMed. So when you look through the alternatives, that information does not appear to have been used to help develop the alternatives because it's solely specific on a highway, smattered in with some active transportation and some other things. And then the 10th item that's being added in is about the no build. Is there a no build and what, you know, what that no build is? And then there's a second build that's going to be looking at just the 2050 MTP projects that was not released as part of the alternatives. And I can help answer any other questions you have on this letter. Thank you.
Aaron, on that last point, the new alternative, if I understand correctly, it would be to build a assemblage of MTP projects. So for example, 5th and 6th are one MTP project. I can't remember what some of the other ones are. I think for Road Diet for Gamble and so forth. So there's a whole package of projects. Is that correct?
Yes, that's my understanding. And Galen can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it would be all the MTP projects. Right here.
Great. I was puzzled why the no alternative, or no build alternative required not building any of the MTP projects. So I'm glad to see that should be and will be presented or requested as an alternative.
I know it's a lot to digest, but I think at least as one thing that we could propose today is that we support AMAT's letter as addressing a lot of local concerns and actually regional concerns with our city.
This is Nancy again. I'm very disposed to support the AMAT's letter. I'm wondering if we should add to the analysis with some of the comments that SJ has outlined. So if we should sort of go through his outline, yeah, as well. Unless SJ thinks this speaks well to his concerns.
Okay. Yeah, well, you got them a week and a half, like a week ago. Hey, it's SJ. I do think that the AMAT's comments are decent and worth adding to, like we could make a comment saying that we, that we endorse those comments. That, there are the other issues that I'm bringing up. I mean, one is kind of about where the priority lies, but another one is really kind of on the economic side with my comments. Specifically, the issue that I'm thinking about is that when if you put a new alternative into the model, that you basically bring economic destruction to that area, because nobody wants to invest in a place where there's a highway going through. And so, there's an area, well, there's, I guess, 2 points. The first is that, if, for instance, if they change, a number of the alternatives that have been put forward require significant taking of land, eminent domain or whatnot. And if it's in the plan for those properties to be acquired, investment will stop on those properties. That's been our experience in the Hyder corridor since highway to highway became part of the model. The second issue has to do kind of similarly, but I'm blanking out. I'm sorry. I'm trying to do two things at once. I guess that's the main, that's my main kind of addition at the moment to kind of the, as far as the gist goes with most of the comments that I've thrown in there. That issue just isn't really addressed in the AMAT's comment.
Is that something you guys would like to comment on, is kind of the economic impacts as part of the assessment of alternatives?
This is Nancy.
It's a issue, a problem.
Okay.
Sorry, Nancy.
Oh, I just said, I think it is a problem that depresses investment and redevelopment.
Bob French, I think that I guess the unintended economic impacts are certainly something that we see even if a project is just being studied, not, with, well before some of the actual taking of the properties occurs.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's definitely my point, is that, I mean, the even if it never gets funded, it's dangerous to development to have it on the books. And so, yeah, I guess that's kind of, and I don't know if that's part of the assessment. Like, there is an economic impact assessment made, but I don't know if just the fact that a plan exists is actually part of that economic assessment when they're doing when they're going through the alternative criteria.
Okay, did you guys want to continue going through the general comments one by one, or did you want to focus your general comments on the economic impacts and assessment?
So this is SJ. I apologize to commission members. I did make, I made substantial number of comments. If we go through them one by one and choose to adopt them or reject them, usually when Matt's run a meeting, that's how he runs it. It strikes me that that's how we should move forward. So, why don't we just take them one by one and either thumbs up and thumbs up or thumbs down, or if we want to make modifications to them.
So this is Aaron as the coordinator, not the person running the meeting. So we are going to have to change how we do our meetings, and we can really no longer do that. The issue you run into is you can, technically speaking, only have one main motion on an agenda item. You can have as many amendments as you want, but you can only have one main motion. So, we need to kind of start moving in that direction, and I want to get away from this idea.
I was
through each comment.
under the impression that this was a meeting to gather comments, that comments were not a motion, and that the CAC was providing comment that was being brought forward both to the contractor HDR for the project and also forwarded to the TAC. Is that not what we're doing here today?
So the normal running of a meeting involves a main motion on an action item, and you get one motion on that action item, but as many amendments as you want. What we've done in the past is you have multiple motions on an action item, and we're moving away from that. So we're not doing let's go through each one and approve it with a motion. It's a main motion overall, and then make amendments as you need. So for example, the motion could be move to approve SJ's comments on the Seward to Glenn PEL. And then you can go through and amend them as you want. We're not going to go through each one and be like, okay, the first one we have a motion on, then discussion, then the public, then approve it. We're not doing that anymore. So this meeting is to get your comments to be forwarded to the Technical Advisory Committee for their review and recommendation to the Policy Committee before they're sent to the project team, if they are at all, depending on what the Policy Committee does.
All right then. I guess I will make a motion to provide the comments made in the document that's been forwarded to everybody to the TAC as comments of the TAC. Is that kind of what we're doing here? So a motion to approve the comments that I made on the Seward Glenn PEL.
And I'll second that.
And that was Nancy?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, just a second. No, Nancy, second. Okay. Is there any discussion or amendments that you would all like to make?
This is
Oh, sorry.
Nancy. On the
Yeah.
first item shown on our screen, which begins 2 goals.
Yes.
I would agree with most of that, but I would strike out the sentence that says the two goals are inversely proportionate and therefore cancel each other out when assessing projects.
Would you like to make a amendment on that?
Yes, I move to amend that comment by striking that sentence.
Okay, hold on, to this sentence. So Nancy is there a second?
Rayberg seconds.
Rayberg seconds. Is there a second? Is there discussion on this?
I have a second, on, you were doing these one at a time, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
amendment.
we're speaking to the amendment.
No
This
discussion
is
on-
SJ. The only thing that I would say is I think the two are inversely proportional. I definitely am okay with the fact that, they getting rid of the notion that they cancel each other out. So, but for the sake of expediency, if we want to delete that whole thing, that's fine.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, are there any objections to the amendment as proposed, which is removing this sentence highlighted before you? Hearing no objections, it is moved. Just gonna track changes. Okay. Are there other amendments?
In that same, paragraph, I guess if you moved it up a little
Oh,
bit.
sorry.
Yeah, further.
Yep.
Instead of what is the minimum flow, it seems like we should say, we would like the PEL to address what is the realistic throw. Add the words, we would like the PEL to address what is the minimum flow. Does that
I'll
make
second
sense?
that.
Okay. Amendment by Deanna, second, by Nancy. Okay, any discussion? And the amendment is to, let me make sure I get this right, add into this section right here.
We would like.
We need to stay away from we's and that kind of stuff. The project team should address what the minimum realistic flow is. Minimum realistic flow that can be achieved in compatibility with the most livable design.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is the amendment.
You're missing a verb there. Is needs to go in there somewhere.
Okay, project team, what? I guess this can just stay here, sorry. Yeah, Jason. Okay, there we go. Any discussion, questions on this one? Okay, any objections to this change? There are no objections, it's moved. Are there other amendments?
This is Nancy. On the point that begins to that end, when assessing alternatives, utilizing existing roadways, minimize the impact of the project and make for a more achievable plan. minimize the impact of the project on. I think I'd like to ask SJ to help flesh that out. And then make a more achievable plan. I'm not sure whether that's referring to costs or it's vague. Make a more achievable plan. I guess I would propose to delete that and then ask SJ specifically which impacts of the project he is trying to highlight. Oh, okay. Maybe I misread it. I think now I understand that he's saying use existing right-of-ways, use existing roadways, and use natural depressions in order to minimize the impact of the project. Okay.
Looks
So,
like SJ is no longer online.
okay, that would be unfortunate.
Okay, are there any other amendments to this item? I guess we'll do.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
I guess I had a question, but if SJ's not there, not sure whether you can answer it. Reducing vehicle miles traveled, in my layperson's opinion, is a pretty good proxy for a lot of environmental impacts, including air quality and climate change, the greenhouse gases, equity. So I'm not sure what the objection would be to using that as at least one of the proxies for environmental impacts. Can you speak to that, Aaron? What other measures of environmental impacts would normally be better?
Mike, did you have a response to Nancy's question, or did you have another one on your own?
No, just a thought on her question. The way I read this is that it's a poor proxy if you don't consider the local impacts to the local neighborhood itself, and instead focus on the overall miles traveled being reduced in the larger picture. So I see it. Yeah, you can consider it an environmental improvement, but if you're not looking at the focus on the local neighborhood, it's you just can't. It's not a good measurement.
Okay, in that case, I would propose to amend that one and strike the word "or" and put in an incomplete proxy for environmental impacts. And then say that environmental impacts, or it should, yeah, just trying to,
So the focus on reducing VMT is an incomplete proxy for environmental impacts unless
Yeah.
it counts reduction in the number of vehicles moving through the study area as well.
Yeah, no, I would say impacts must include counting, or impacts must include a reduction in the number of vehicles moving through the study area and other.
Sorry, can you say that again? Impacts must include a.
It must include measurements of impacts to the local community, comma, including the number of vehicles moving through the study area.
The number of vehicles moving through the study area. Okay, would you like to make a motion for that?
I move to make the amendments that you have just typed into that sentence, that paragraph.
Is there a second?
This is-
River,
Sorry, who was that?
Michael, second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there any discussion with this change? These changes? Okay, no discussion. Are there any objections to the changes? Okay, hearing none, the amendment passes. Okay, are there other amendments?
I have another one on, the, sentence that is two above where we're at.
This interim plan?
Yeah. Again, it says, I would like to edit it so that it says the project team should evaluate whether alternatives allow for incremental improvements to the area, blah, blah, blah.
Hold on.
So,
Project team should evaluate.
whether each alternative
Each alternative
allows,
for incremental improvements to the area, even if the main project does not get funded for 30 to 50 years.
and take out the interim plan part, just start with,
Okay, this is what you're looking for?
Yeah.
Okay. You'd like to make a motion on that?
I would like to make a motion to change the wording to that sentence, or those couple sentences.
Second,
Thank you. There's a second by Nancy. Okay, is there any discussion with these changes? Hearing none, are there any objections to the changes? Okay, hearing none, the amendment is approved. Are there any other amendments?
Aaron, do I assume that we could just give you blanket license to capitalize things that need to be capitalized? There's some inconsistency.
Yeah,
We
so I'll
have to-
go through, do basic spell check and everything like that to clean it up.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Before we get into the specific comments, I don't know, maybe the, reference to the AMAT's letter to, the TAC that we went over, a few minutes ago could be, our support for that letter could be added as a paragraph right before the specific comments.
So the only thing I'll say on that is that letter is going to the policy committee in like next week. And so by the time this gets to,
They won't know.
the letter will already been dealt with. So, if you guys want to, we can take a quick vote after this is done. Or if you guys want to support it, and I can include that with the letter when it's brought to the PC and say the community advisory committee
Okay,
does or what. So we can try and do that if there should be enough time. We got 45 minutes left of the meeting, so.
okay, I support that.
Okay, any other amendments for general comments? Okay, just to keep us moving, we'll go ahead and start on the specific comments. Okay. No action option. Are there any amendments to this comment?
Yes, I don't know quite how to articulate it, but I didn't feel that it was appropriate to suppress all of the individual projects listed in the MTP when evaluating the no action alternative. And so I guess that's one way it could be stated. I think this is something you kind of got at in your letter, but we went through your letter quickly.
This is SJ and Nancy. One thing about the no action alternative, there's actually there's two assessed kind of no action alternatives. One is if none of the projects in the MTP are enacted, and the other, they are actually doing they're assessing an option where if all they do is the improvements that are in the MTP. So you know, there is an alternative that includes the MTP, like what is in the MTP now.
Okay. I guess I didn't fully understand that.
Yeah, so it says no action, but it's really gonna be one that, if nothing were done outside of just general stuff, and then there'd be one if it's just the 2050 MTP projects, but no highway or the other alternatives. Galen, I think you had something to add.
Can I provide a little clarification on that, just so everybody's on the same page? So Galen Jones with Alaska DOT. Okay, so there's a no action alternative, and then there is another build alternative that is called the MTP alternative. Both of these are discussed in detail in the detailed alternatives report available for public review currently on the website. So in section 4.1 in the report, it talks about the no action alternative. To summarize that, it is all of the MTP 2050 projects in the study area, except the one on Ingra and Gamble. So every single one of the MTP projects, all those road diets, lane reductions, pedestrian improvements, everything except the two. Well, it's one project, but, well, maybe it's two projects, but it's the one on Ingra and the one on Gamble. So it just doesn't have that. So that's the no action alternative. The MTP 2050 alternative is a build alternative. And it's the same as the no action, except it has the MTP 2050 alternatives on Ingra and Gamble. So those road diets that reduce it by like one lane each, pedestrian improvements, and they maintain it as a couple. Is that, hopefully that clears things up for everybody. It sounded like there was some confusion about that, but hearing Ms. P's and SJ's comments. So just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you, Galen. Okay, are there any edits, amendments for the no action option? Comment?
So, to clarify, this no action option comment is specifically toward the no action option and not the no action MTP option. Is that?
Well, that's kind of the confusing part. The no action, correct me if I'm wrong, Galen, does include the MTP projects, except for the ones that are on Ingra Gamble.
Right. Yeah. So that's what I don't understand, which no action option is this bullet, is this about the first one or the second one?
SJ, are you on to help answer?
Yeah, I can clarify a little bit. I was actually kind of speaking to both, just in that both kind of keep Ingra and Gamble as a couplet. The MTP option does have a road diet, which is an improvement for sure. The fact of Ingra and Gamble being a couplet is just has such significant impacts on on everything within that 32 square block area, so the comment is kind of directed at both.
So it should be no
options. Sure.
So
two of them, right?
Okay.
just to be clear, I'm looking at the no action alternative now, and it also doesn't convert Fifth and Sixth Avenue to complete streets. And it also doesn't include a port access connection. And it also doesn't include about 6 different pedestrian and bike facilities. So it's not just not building Ingra to a 3-lane and Gamble to a 3-lane. It's a package of projects that won't be built. So anyway, sorry, I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, any,
And do we need a resolution if we were to change the no option to no option options, no action
No.
options? Okay,
that's just a spelling error I can correct or a clerical thing. Don't worry about that.
super. Thank you.
Okay, any amendments or anything to the no action options comment? Okay, moving on to alternative A. Here are the comments. Are there any amendments to these 2 comments, just on the alternative A?
Bob French here. I guess one of the comments that I would like to look at is all of these alternatives basically just kind of dump some of the traffic into other areas, such as continuing down Fifth Avenue, where a lot of the Glen Highway traffic, going out to the airport, might continue along Fifth Avenue. Similar things with the impacts from the truck traffic that they're trying to dump down into the port. I guess my question is, it's really trying to figure out, I don't know if there are, I guess, models that have been done to show where that traffic is being impacted by that. And specifically just the areas outside of the area of potential effects there.
Galen, you guys haven't actually done any modeling of the alternatives yet. That's the next step.
The traffic modeling will occur after public comment period ends. In case there are any refinements we have to make due to public comment that should be incorporated into the traffic model.
So the answer is not yet, no.
Okay, thank you.
This is Nancy
Okay.
again. The flow of traffic from the port to the freeway was not clear to me in this one.
But I think, from looking at past options too, I believe that they estimated that about 60 to 70% of all of the port traffic continued straight down C Street, rather than there was only I think it was like 10 or 15% that was going to the Seward Highway, and another say 20 or 30% going out the Glen Highway. Most of the port traffic was actually headed into Anchorage. So I'm not sure where the effect of all of this is going to be. I don't think it's solving a problem, in other words.
Is that a comment that applies to all of these?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I'm not sure who's making that comment, but that's important. So if you could frame it up as a motion, I would think we should add it to the general comments.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, sorry, that probably should have come up before getting into these specific ones. Not sure I could do that very well off the top of my head. But, I guess going back into this is Bob French. Going back into the general comments, saying something that the existing traffic patterns from the port into, or out of, from the port of Alaska into the rest of the community has been described as mainly continuing down the C Street and the A Street couplet, and with only minor percentages of truck traffic heading to the Glenn Highway and to the Seward Highway. Therefore, this project doesn't seem to address or doesn't seem to correct any problems, any significant problems with the truck traffic out of the port. Sorry, that's pretty rough, but I think it kind of gets a point across there.
I think he said minor percentages instead of marginal percentages.
Okay, sorry, it was hard to hear. Okay, that's Bob's amendment. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Nancy.
When is the time for questions on a?
Now would be the time.
Yep.
No,
So,
there's a second.
Did the, does the PEL, seem to indicate that it would help? I mean, is that the issue, or are we expecting the project somehow? I mean, if that's not where the traffic's going, then I guess what is our point? I don't understand. Point is.
That's a question for Galen, as to what they're trying to solve. There are a number of port connection options that the different alternatives show. And maybe it's a question for Galen, kind of what problem they're trying to solve with the different port connections.
This
Yeah,
is
go ahead.
Bob French again. I think one of the real problems I see is the area of potential effect didn't seem to include things like the AC couplet or the Minnesota traffic heading out towards, I guess the 5th and 6th couplet. And it's more of, it's going back again to my question on the modeling, but certainly the truck traffic in and out of the port can be a significant impact to the rest of the traffic in the area.
Okay, Galen, did you have a comment to? speak on
Sure.
this?
Yeah, happy to chime in. Galen Jones with Alaska DOT. So a couple of things. Back to the comment about alternative A, it wasn't clear where the highway routing is. In the top left corner of that alternative A graphic, there are 3 potential freight options. Happy to clarify those if there's more specific questions on those. So this alternative would tie into one of those options. Those options tie into Ingra and Gamble. Part of the scope of this PEL study is to investigate, well, it's been lumped together with another AMAT study called the AMAT's Ingra Gamble Couplet Extension Reconnaissance Study. So that study, the scope of it is to look at connections between the Ingra Gamble couplet to either Whitney Road or Ship Creek Road. And so that's where you see these options are tying directly between those roadways which serve the port, directly into the freeway or into the Ingra and Gamble as a couplet extension. So that we were tasked with investigating that, and so that's what we're doing. And we met with the Alaska Trucking Association. I'm not sure the report Mr. French is referencing, but that is not consistent with what we're hearing in terms of freight routes. Most of the routes actually go up the Glenn Highway. Their major destinations, the North Slope of Alaska, Dalton Highway. That's the way you get down to the states, to the valley, Matsu Borough, which is the largest growing area in the state. And a smaller percentage go to the Kenai Peninsula, and then you have a percentage of trucks that go to within Anchorage itself. And so he's correct that there is a percentage of trucks using the AC couplet. There's also trucks using Minnesota, and then there's trucks that use the Seward Highway. So many of the trucks going into town do use the AC couplet. That is correct. Now, they said if there was a better connection on the highway, they would prefer to use that. So they don't have to stop at every single light going down the AC couplet. It's inefficient. It raises the cost of goods that we all pay for. So basically that's the data that we have. And this will be analyzed further when we do traffic modeling. I did want to speak a little bit. One last thing is that, you know, we know that there is a large volume of trucks going down Ingra and Gamble now. And whether there's also a large or larger number of trucks going down A and C, really what we're focused on is trying to get those trucks out of Fairview. And that is sort of disconnected from how many trucks are other places. We know there's an unacceptable amount going through Fairview, and they've caused safety issues, congestion issues, livability issues. Well, not so much congestion, but livability issues. And so we're looking at solutions on how to separate port traffic and regional traffic from the neighborhoods so they can have those road diet, pedestrian improvement projects and things like that. So that happy to follow up if anybody has additional questions. Thank you.
Sure, this is Bob French. Just to clarify, I believe that the truck traffic studies that I was referring to were done by HDR for the Kabata project.
Thank you for that reference.
So Chuck, I see you just a second. So I would recommend if you want to continue forward with this comment right here, that we need to put something in here that says, has been described in the past as mainly continuing down A and C, because it seems confusing, like you're saying, that the current documentation from the PEL is describing it as mainly continuing down the AC street couplet, and might need some clarity there. Chuck, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I completely disagree with this comment. You know, obviously, I live in Eagle River and walk along the Glen Highway on the bike path, and on Sundays and Tuesdays, the trucks are just nonstop. It's one truck after another when they come in from the port and headed north to, you know, Wasilla, like it was just mentioned. And Matsu is the fastest growing community in Alaska, and the amount of trucking is just going to continue to increase headed north in the future. So I disagree with this comment.
Okay, is there other discussion on this comment? Okay,
This is Nancy. I'm a little concerned about not really knowing the traffic statistics. The last statement doesn't seem to address any significant problems. Might not ring quite as true as it should.
okay. Are there objections to this comment?
I mean, that's it.
No, sorry.
Not,
Yes, you've already done a motion and a second on it. So now sounds like there are objections to this,
Yeah,
so.
this is SJ. I'll oppose also, so, yeah.
Okay, so what I'll do is a roll call of it since there are objections to this comment.
Can we amend it further, or has it been called for a vote?
You can amend it further if you want. We can do like a friendly amendment if you want.
Okay, Bob, you want to help me out with that last sentence? I'm sure it does address some problems with truck traffic heading north. You've studied the truck traffic and I haven't, so I don't know how to amend it.
Yeah, I would agree with Aaron's comment that where it says in the first sentence that it's been described in the past as mainly continuing down. I guess the last sentence maybe something like it would be a good one.
Well, one of the criteria for the overall design approach is to have no stoplights for freight. Obviously, this is only part of the freight leaving, so maybe that shouldn't be quite such a important criteria. So something to the effect of the proportionate benefit to truck traffic needs to be considered, something like that.
I would agree with that. I think one of my real concerns is that the area of potential effect doesn't include really either the AC couplet or the 5th and 6th couplet beyond the area that's in there. So I think we would say something like the potential impacts of this project on the AC couplet and the 5th and 6th couplet need to be balanced against the perceived benefits, something like that.
I do really quickly just want to point out something that the project area does include AC 5th, 6th. It's all the way down to the port. So, Galen, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm fairly certain when you guys do the modeling, it'll show the impacts to the network, including AC 5th and 6th, and the in and out of the port, right?
That's correct. It'll show the impacts the alternatives have, no build, NTP 2050, and all the build alternatives. It'll show the change in traffic and truck percentages on all of the roadways. I think they're collectors and above that roadway.
Okay, we need to keep moving. So are there any comments on this amendment, this change that was made to this one? Okay, are there any objections to this comment being added?
I'm opposed to it. I think that only a minor percentage of truck traffic heading to north to the Glenn Highway is a false statement.
Okay, so there are objections, so we'll do a roll call vote for this one.
Aaron, just as a point of order, right now we're voting on the amendment. Is that correct? And then
Yes.
the amendment to the amendment or the amendment itself, I guess.
The amendment itself.
Okay, great. As it's written right now, that was a friendly amendment that was made, and now we're voting on whether to include
amendment.
this in the comment. Got it.
Yes. Okay, so we'll do roll call vote on this. Let me make sure I get everyone. Chuck Homan,
Opposed.
okay, S.J. Klein,
Sorry, yeah, I'm opposed, I guess.
okay, Jim Winchester,
Opposed.
okay, Diana Evans.
In favor.
Okay, sorry, just a second. Let me go to the online so I get everybody. Okay, Bob French.
In favor?
Okay, we have Nancy Pease.
In favor?
Okay, we have Mike Rayberg.
In favor.
Okay, let me sorry, I'm still going through the list. I'll try and get to everybody. Kathleen.
May I abstain?
Okay. Just going through. I think I got everybody. So it is a 4 yes, 3 no, 1 abstain. So the motion carries. That amendment will be added in. Okay, let's keep moving. Let's focus on the alternative A comments. Are there any amendments to the alternative A comments on the screen before you? Excuse me. Okay, hearing none, let's move to the alternative B. Are there any amendments to the alternative B comments on the screen before you?
I assume we're not trying to correct anything in these alternatives. I guess what my comment on this one was, that this has a bike trail connection that goes along Third Avenue and Post Road, which is pretty industrial and not a good location. But are we trying to improve these or just commenting on the, I guess that's a deficit that I would add in there.
Okay. Would you like to make an amendment on that?
Yeah, I propose to comment that,
That's
The-
totally appropriate, Nancy.
okay, the bike trail connections should not, I guess it's the regional bike trail connection should not go along Third Avenue and Post Road through an industrial area.
Industrial area. Okay, that was an amendment by Nancy. Is there a second?
Bob French, all the second.
Okay. Is there any discussion on this amendment?
Sure, this is SJ. Nancy, are you talking about what's on the alternative, or are you talking about the Ship Creek Trail? Because Ship Creek Trail goes along kind of, down in that Post Road area as well. And there's not really pedestrian or any kind of bicycle access or trails down in Third Avenue, or that, kind of connecting to the to the Ship Creek Trail at the moment. So I guess I'm kind of wondering what you're suggesting, like that there
Well-
shouldn't be a connection to Ship Creek, or that there should be a different alignment of a connection to Ship Creek.
A different alignment. I am only going by the map. I've been on the Ship Creek Trail, but it shows the alignment to my eye going down what's colored as Industrial Road on the map. Industrial Road along Post Road and East Whitney Road. That's where it's.
Here, let me
Wait,
show you
sure.
the alternative real quick. I mean, okay, make sure this shows up. So it's kind of hard to see, but I think, is this the connection you're talking about, Nancy? This blue that goes along Third Avenue here and then connects down here
Yeah,
along.
That's what shows as Industrial Road on the alternatives online. So if I'm mistaken, then so then there's also a line along Ship Creek. So maybe that's where it's supposed to go. that wasn't highlighted on the map in the online.
Oh, you taking this one right? This?
Yeah, that's what the map online shows. It doesn't show the other dotted trail, which I guess is the Ship Creek Trail. So that does not show up on the map that's online. So now I understand. I guess I withdraw my comment.
Okay. Back to sharing comments. So there is withdraw. The second is Bob French. Do you support the withdrawal of the comment?
Or with a clarification of that map, yes.
Okay. Okay, are there any amendments or comments on alternative B comments? Okay, let's go to alternative C comments. Only have about 12 minutes left, so just a heads up for everybody of the meeting.
So this is SJ. I will admit that I've got probably more opinion into alternative C than is appropriate for the commission, but you know, I mean, I'm okay letting it stand if nobody wants to change it.
This is Nancy. I guess I see kind of an unfortunate, I don't know how people in Fairview feel about 15th Avenue, but you know, with its median, it doesn't feel like an overwhelming road to me right now. It doesn't feel like that much of a barrier, and I'm not a resident. This would definitely, I think, feel like a barrier. And so I question whether we're softening or reducing one barrier, the Ingrid Gamble barriers to the community connectivity and cohesion, but putting in another one. So, and if essentially just spreading the traffic out, if impacting new areas that, to me, as I said, don't feel overwhelmed with traffic now, but I don't live there.
Yeah, I mean, I've you know, in like my house was in 10th and Medfra, and I had a child growing up in the area, and I can tell you crossing 15th is not easy. I mean, there's stoplights, and I can also tell you most people going like to Sitka Park or down to the Chester Creek Trail from South Fairview or from North Fairview, I guess. A lot of people are crossing without going across the crosswalks and the stoplights already, which is dangerous. The road is at times really dangerous. I mean, I've seen 2 pedestrians get killed on the road in the time that I've been living in the area. I guess my thinking and what is interesting to me about this is if you increase the flow of traffic but depress it, suddenly there's no crossing there except for where you build crossings, and there's an opportunity to build better connections between North Fairview and South Fairview across 15th. You know, whether that would happen or not, I have no idea, but that's there is the potential to improve the connections between the two sides right now. Just, I mean, and it's really when there's, there's times a day when there's peak traffic on 15th. It's not easy for pedestrians to cross. I mean, definitely the stoplights aren't bad, but there's a lot of traffic, a lot of people crossing that aren't crossing at the stoplights. And that's mostly kind of what I'm concerned about. So I'm thinking about like, okay, how do we make that access better? And there's potential to really do that with this alternative. And then on the other side, I am afraid of say I do this in, realign, and then it never happens, and then suddenly Tyonek is, it receives the kind of disinvestment that Hyder has received. So, I'm hesitant, but I'm also interested. So that's why I've put everything in there that I did.
Okay, any amendments to these comments for alternative C? Galen, you have a comment?
Yeah, Galen Jones, Alaska DOT. I would just request that as part of the comments, it be clarified which alternative C1 or C2 that any of these comments or all of them, or if there's a combination of the two, are directed to. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, SJ, can you answer which alternative C these are directed towards? Okay, I'll try and follow up with. Yeah.
Sorry, Aaron. One question: Would you be able to pull up the alternatives real quick? Just anyway, I'm trying to find them right now just to make sure whether I'm talking about both or one.
Hold on, let me scroll down real quick. Okay, here's the C1 alternative. And then here's the C2 alternative.
Yeah. So I guess my comments would relate to both. I mean, there is kind of the impact on the area where 15th curves down into Inger and Gamble. C1 has better access designed into it than C2 does, but I think the comment relates to both.
Okay, I could just add that in as a technical correction so you guys know which it is. So, okay, we only have about 6 minutes left of the meeting, so we need to move on to alternative D. Are there any amendments to the alternative D comments?
At the very end,
This is it.
I mean, the viaduct at the left.
Yes, that is the last little bit. I made sure to include it in there.
Just to make sure.
I would be even more forceful in our comments and, say that the bypass, degrades over a half a mile of Chester Creek Greenbelt, which is an asset to this community and to the entire city. And, the extensive impacts, well, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, would you like to make an amendment or motion?
Yes, I move to add in here that this alternative substantially degrades over a half mile of Chester Creek Greenbelt, which is an important asset to this community and a regional asset.
Which is an important, which is an important asset?
To the surrounding neighborhoods and to the regional community.
To the surrounding neighborhoods and the regional community.
As a point of comment on that, I'm from the Rogers Park Council. I represent all of this, the district around Chester Creek
Hold
and,
on before you comment. We need a second on this
Sorry.
motion.
sorry.
This is SJ, I'll second.
Okay, sorry, just, okay, now discussion.
Yep. And, my council passed a motion against this alternative at its, last meeting last Monday. Just for information.
Okay, is there any discussion on this, amendment? Okay, are there any objections to adding this amendment? Okay, hearing none, amendment is added. Are there any other amendments to the comments? Okay, hearing none, let's go ahead and go back to the main motion. Are there any objections to approval of the main motion with all these amendments? Okay, hearing none, the motion is approved with the amendments. Awesome. Okay, we are done
Well,
with this here. So let me go back to the agenda.
Do we need a
We were
motion to
going to
adjourn?
consider a reference to your letter, your staff letter, or Diana, you had an idea.
yeah, that's what, I think Aaron's,
Yeah, it's not really an action item, so, but let's go ahead and do it. Do you have a motion?
I move that, the Community Advisory Council supports the positions represented by the AMAT's letter to, was it to the TAC? No, to the PEL team.
To the council.
I'll second it.
Okay. Second by Nancy. Okay, so this is a, quick little, motion to support, that the CAC supports the letter, the AMAT's letter from staff, that went to the TAC and is going to the policy committee next week, for comments, to the PEL team. Is there any discussion?
It's Chuck Holman. I would oppose this, not having really read it thoroughly and understand exactly what it says. So I'm opposed to short notice to approve something like this.
Okay, are there any other comments? Okay, hearing opposition, let's do a roll call. Quick, grab this. Okay, Chuck, go ahead.
Opposed?
Okay, SJ.
I'm in favor.
Okay, Jim Winchester,
I'm in favor.
Diana Evans,
Favor.
Bob French,
Favor,
Nancy Pease,
In favor?
Mike Rayberg,
In favor.
and Kathleen McArdle.
In favor.
Okay, it passes 8-1. Thank you. Approved.
1 minute to spare.
Okay, so, I'm gonna do a quick thing. We're kind of at the end, so we're just gonna go through, general information. There's none. Committee comments. Does the committee have any comments? Okay,
Just thank you
Thank you.
everybody for bearing with us on this.
yes, thank you all. Okay, public comments. Are there any public comments? Okay, so I just have one quick thing for the committees before you all sign off, just as a heads up for future meetings. If you all could let me know when you are not going to be attending in person, I would appreciate it. It's a lot of time and effort to get these meetings set up for the physical version of things. So if you can just send me an email before the meeting, just to let me know that you won't be here in person, I would greatly appreciate it, especially since I'm so short-handed right now. So, thank you. Are there any other comments before we adjourn?
Well done, Aaron, single-handedly.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you. Moved, seconded by Bob. Okay, we are adjourned at 5:01. Thank you all very much. Have a good day.
Okay.
So I
Thank
don't
you, Aaron.
know
Thanks.
Thank you.
if you get that most people are on Zoom, can you